Here are 11 reasons our spaces get super cluttered even if we've done a massive declutter before, and 3 ways to help alleviate the problem and make sure it doesn't happen quite as often. Now, I don't know about you, but when I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, which was after I had started this channel and done some minimalism videos on my own, I read in her book that when you do a full purge of your whole home and find those things that spark joy, as she says, you'll never have to do it again, that you will just maintain it by nature. And let me tell you something, that planted in my head brought me a whole lot of shame for a long time, because I have always done massive decluttering in my spaces from the time I was a very little girl. I didn't do it intentionally as a little girl, that's just how I cleaned up my room, was by throwing stuff away. But in adulthood, when it became something I did intentionally and not just as a way to survive, I would get really down on myself when my spaces would start to get cluttered again, and I kind of felt like a fraud and like I didn't really practice what I was preaching and so on and so forth. However, over the years, I have come to realize there are many reasons that our spaces get cluttered. May you listen to these and feel better about yourself and your clutter as well. First and foremost, my kids get into my stuff and tear it absolutely apart. The worst room in my home was one that was nicely organized into piles shortly after we had moved into our new house, and these all needed permanent homes. But within like 2 days, my youngest had torn into everything. It was like a tornado had gone through it, and no one would have had any idea what piles went where. I only did, because I was able to piece it back together. Children have immature executive functioning skills, which is what helps them organize and clean up. Not only that, some adults have what is called executive dysfunction. It's something that I've really identified with, and it's something that I've struggled with my whole life. When I was doing my homework as a kid, I would sometimes have a really hard time organizing the answers, and it was just part of my life, and that has translated in keeping my home organized and tidy as well. So with my kids struggling to clean up with their immature executive functioning skills, with my executive dysfunction, those paired together often made messes real fast. Another reason, we have vague homes or no homes for our items. I have a lot of stuff, especially since we've been from an apartment to a house to an apartment to a house in the last 4 years. Some items I've held on to because I thought we would need them in the apartment or the house. Other items I just didn't have a place for because of how many times we had transitioned. So having clear homes, specific homes for every single item in your home will help you keep the space uncluttered. You can easily put it away and easily access it, and you won't be buying doubles or forgetting where things are as long as you've put them away appropriately. And that leads me to the 4th one, transitions. Any big transition in life is going to bring clutter. I mean, end of school, the first day of school, big moves, birthdays, holidays. There are all sorts of little and big transitions that bring on more stuff. Now, several of these transitions we can anticipate, so I always try to do a purge during any big transition stage or right before any big transition stage, especially birthdays and Christmas. We have a birthday really close to Christmas and stuff gets crazy, so we do a big purge of the kids' toys and clothes right before that season, and they get involved in that as well. And that really lightens things up so that when clutter comes our way, we're prepared for it and we have empty spaces for the new things that my kids inevitably get. I could use that later. I put air quotes around it, but again, with big transitions, especially moves, a lot of the time we hold on to items that we aren't sure if we're going to use. I say put a deadline on those items. Say, you know what, I'm going to use it in 12 months or within 6 months, and if you don't, let that go. Put an alarm in your phone, on your calendar, and honor those alarms. We let stuff rack up in our homes because we think we could use them, when in reality we're probably not going to. We're going to get used to it being where it is. Our home's going to feel cluttered and we're not even going to know how it happened. Projects I'm going to get to. Now, I live in a fixer-upper, so there are a lot of projects in this home that need to be done, and so I hold on to items that I need to use for a future project. Sometimes that is really fiscally responsible because the item might be really expensive, like a tool, and I'm definitely going to use it again. Other times, if it's a little bit of mortar in a box or a small thing of nails or any little consumable that there's not very much of it left, I'm probably going to get more of it anyway. Let those things go. I have been letting those things go, realizing that I'm probably not going to get to the project in a year, and saving 12 cents by holding on to tile spacers is really just contributing to the clutter and not saving me any money. Well-intentioned hobbies or crafts. This is a big one for me. I have a lot of crafts and hobbies and interests that I like to try, especially sewing. I tried slime for a while. It was really fun as a tactile craft to play with that, and my kids liked it too. Flashcards for my youngest, who ended up hating flashcards. There were all of these things that I was well-intentioned in getting done, but eventually we let go of. Another big Marie Kondo thing that got me into clutter trouble was bins that I saved for organizing. I literally had a whole stack of like good boxes. That's what Marie Kondo recommends using for organizing drawers and shelves, are like Apple product boxes and good quality shoe boxes. I had a whole pile of those for organizing things, to the point that I needed to organize those boxes. And I was like, okay, this is silly. It's time to let those go. Clearly, if I needed them, I would have used them by now. So I moved those on, and I've made a mental note, don't keep storing storage boxes. That's silly. Things that have outlived their purpose. I think it's very easy to hold on to things because we think that they have value. This could fall under, I could use that later, but it could also be things that you just aren't ready to let go of, but absolutely have fulfilled their purpose, whether it's kids' clothes or seat cushions or pieces of furniture after that you don't no longer use after you've moved. All sorts of items we have that brought us value at one time, but no longer do. Those items need to be let go. Sell them if you want to make some money. Give them away if you're wanting to be charitable. But either way, it's good just to let those things have another life elsewhere once you are finished with them. One of the biggest reasons that my space has gotten so cluttered here is because almost the entire house is unfinished. And unfinished spaces just don't feel very nice, and so it's much harder to make them appear clean. I mean, we don't have trim on a lot of the windows and the floors. We don't have floors at all on the subfloors. I think you can kind of see back here behind me. This house just needs a whole lot of love and a whole lot of attention, and so much of it is inside the walls and floors. And so when you live in an unfinished space, a fixer-upper, you have to really be on top of keeping it clean. It is harder to do because it's just not as pretty and comforting to look at. So if you don't live in a fixer-upper and you're considering it and you're bothered by clutter, definitely consider that option before you move in. Also, you can let that be motivation to finish, because when we lived in our previous fixer-upper, once it was finished, it was so much easier to keep it nice and tidy because it felt done. It felt like a warm blanket was put over your shoulders every time you finished tidying up and cleaning up. Whereas here, even when we clean up and put things away, we see all these projects that need to be done. And that can kind of be draining emotionally. Doable, but it's just one of those things you have to consider. And another huge issue is that catch-alls catch all. If you have a junk drawer, or you have a junk room, or you're just in the habit of throwing all of your excess stuff in your garage, those spaces now become catch-alls, and that's just where you put things that you're gonna get to eventually. And that's not a great idea if you're trying to reduce the clutter. So in this home, I have decided recently, after doing all of this cleaning up that I showed you, that we're done with the catch-alls. Even if a room isn't finished, it's not a room that we're putting anything in, because then clutter abounds. It's like it attracts everything that we're not sure we want to keep or not. Making the decision once you realize that something has outlived its purpose or is no longer serving you or no longer brings you joy, making the decision at that time to let it go is always the best. Now, the 3 things I suggest to do to eliminate the clutter are, of course, tidy up. If you haven't done a massive purge of your entire home, you totally should. I think I'm going to make some videos helping some other people do it, because It's really, really wonderful and cleansing and just life-giving to your soul and your home to do a big purge of everything and let go of everything that doesn't bring you joy or serve you. Definitely have your kids and your partner help. Everybody who lives in your home should be cleaning. If you are the one primarily cleaning, let me tell you, you do not get paid enough for that business. If your kids aren't doing chores, go ahead and make a chore chart and have them help you. Ask sincerely that everybody help if they live in your home. You as a mother or a wife are not primarily responsible for keeping your home clean, and if you're the only one doing it, you should let me know. Does that make you resentful? Because I definitely know there have been seasons when I'm doing that and I get irritated by everyone. And lastly, the one that has been most helpful for me lately is by scheduling little cleanup times throughout my day. So we do 10 minutes after each meal that we're eating at home. We clean the table and then we clean the kitchen, which is really just the surfaces and the floors. And then there's a 10 to 15 minute tidy that we do either in the morning or in the afternoon as well. For whatever reason, scheduling these tidy periods throughout our day has helped us keep things so much cleaner. We also have a rule in our house that is kind of difficult to adhere to put our things away as soon as we're done using them. Every time we don't do that, I want to get irritated, but I know that I do it too, so I do my best to use that as a reminder to let my kids know and let myself know, oh, I did not put my stuff away as soon as I was done with it. Talk to myself compassionately, talk to my children compassionately and patiently. I'm telling you, when we do that, it is so much more effective in the long run at helping us all understand to keep our spaces cleaned up and uncluttered rather than punishing ourselves or our kids for not doing what we should have done. So what do you think? Do you get a cluttered space because of any of the reasons I mentioned? And while I was mentioning them, did you think of any reasons that your home gets uncluttered that I didn't say? Definitely let us know in the comments below, and I will see you next week.